Hi, thanks so much for watching this video. I'm Sarah Lauren, a women's embodiment coach who helps women become more of who they already are. And in this video, I want to share a story of hope about a mother who found love and invited it into her life, just to give you a little example of how embodiment work and somatic tools can truly change your life from the inside out. I'm so excited for the month of May as a mother, Mother's Day, of course, but also it's a time when flowers are blooming and we're starting to get our first harvest here in the South. Like in our vegetable garden, we're starting to see things grow and thrive. And in that spirit, I want to share this story about a client of mine who gave me permission to share this story about her experience during our time together in our coaching sessions, what she discovered about herself. So I had this client and she really was craving a level of intimacy, okay, single mom. And she seemed to keep attracting narcissistic men over and over again, much like her father. And she wanted to do something different. So, in one of our coaching sessions, I led her through a visualization practice. So, with this kind of somatic work, normally there's some kind of a physical ailment or something that's going on with the body that is pointing to some opportunity for integration. So, chest pain and a tight chest, right? We can take something like that and go into it. And that's kind of what happened in this case, going into a pain in the body. We started to explore what was going on with that body part in that piece. And I ended up leading this client into a visualization exercise. And I took her, guided her in with eyes closed into the underworld of her heart. And in this underworld, she met the queen of the underworld, which represents an aspect of her psyche, and asked this part of her for permission to recover a lost part of herself. Once she got the blessing from this sovereign, this queen of the underworld, she went deeper into the underworld and she went down this dark hallway and down these big stone steps into a dungeon. And what she found there was a little girl. This was a lost piece of herself that her body, mind, her soma, the wisdom of her body allowed her to see and to discover or rediscover, remember. And she approached this little girl, about 6 or 7 years old, and she was just all alone, dirty, detached, sad. And the reaction that my client had, this was the first time she had ever met a lost piece of herself. And she just released just years and years and layers of numbing and in a cathartic release, in tears. And she was able to see and understand what that little girl needed. That little girl needed to feel safe and to feel loved and to be acknowledged. Now, normally I would guide somebody I always ask, can you ask this little girl, this lost piece of yourself, if they're willing to come experience what life is like with you now in the present moment out of the underworld? And this first meeting, the little girl did not want to leave. She didn't want to be touched or anything, but she was acknowledged and understood. So after this session, when the client came out of it, immediately what happened was men she was dating, she started to set boundaries with them, because the result of just acknowledging this lost part of her that was suffering deep in the underworld of her heart, just the power of acknowledging and understanding and being seen, that lost piece had been seen. And because of that, she was able to act as a protective mother to this inner child piece. And all of a sudden, certain behaviors that narcissistic men were doing towards her were just totally unacceptable. And she could say it now. It's like she found that piece of herself, that voice that could say, no, I don't want that. And all of the narcissistic men she had been attracting for decades fell away. They just fell away one by one. And she kept revisiting this inner child piece, this inner little girl, in sessions and in between during integration periods. This work is called integration because you're bringing your awareness to a subconscious piece of your psyche and allowing it the chance to integrate into the present moment. And this is the empowering process of recovering your lost self, or in this case, inner child healing. Well, eventually, months later, she was attracting high quality men, but she was able to find a partner who she's now enjoying a long-term relationship with, who is safe. It's a healthy love. She feels loved, and she really feels like this little girl inside of her, who now is in the present moment with her, belongs where she was always supposed to be. So this is just one of the myriad of ways that you can approach inner child healing in order to magnetize that love that your soul is craving. I want to encourage especially all the mothers out there with this story, and also just describing to you how integration works. And it matters because what happens is we all have trauma. Maybe it was a parent who didn't give us love, or we didn't feel safe, or we didn't have our needs met because our family was poor and we didn't have enough to eat. And what happens is we get these protectors in those situations when we're young and traumatized, who develop survival tactics, and they become part of our subconscious and direct our sometimes thoughts, behaviors, and actions. And then patterns develop in our lives that actually keep playing the same story over and over again. But when you're able to integrate these pieces of your subconscious mind and bring them into conscious loving awareness, you create this pathway for integration, and you start reclaiming piece by piece pieces of your lost soul, your true essence, and that's how you become more of who you already are. In the example I shared with you of my client and her story, she discovered firsthand how loving herself gave her the confidence to ask for what she really wanted. And once she understood that piece that was running in the background and brought it to the foreground with love, that confidence, that reclamation changed her life forever. So if you love this content and this idea of embodiment, the best way to keep in touch with me is through my emails. So if you go to my website, I am saralauren.com, and you got to scroll all the way to the bottom to subscribe to my newsletter. I don't have any fancy pop-ups right now, but if you subscribe to my newsletter, I at least once a month send out emails. I'm a mother myself, and I love working with mothers. And I just want to thank you again for tuning into this video. And I'm wishing you a very happy Mother's Day and month of May. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you don't miss any of my weekly content. Until next time, thank you very much.